Greetings, Ranger fans. Jake here for another edition of Database Rangers Power Reviews, where we take a look back at our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 weeks to the 100th and final episode. So thank you to everybody coming into the chat. Good to see you, Sean. Good to see you, Athena. They're tripping over my words. Sorry that we are a little bit off schedule tonight. Obviously, it's Monday night as opposed to our usual Friday night, and that's because I was regrettably sick last week with a sore throat. So while I was somewhat capable of speaking on Friday, I was very nervous I wouldn't be able to speak for the entire live stream or would end up getting trapped into a coughing fit or anything like that. And I wanted to make sure that, I could speak for the commentaries. Welcome, Scott. Good to see you. Happy Friday. Also, happy birthday to my mom. Although I was sick last week, I did go down to visit my parents and bring RJ along so they could have a happy Hanukkah right around and to sort of celebrate my mom's birthday. So, welcome, Rudy. So yeah, it's been a busy week, and obviously that also delayed the deeper look and rapid run through as well, since I wasn't able to speak to record those in advance. But I am in the process of completing those now, so they should be out tomorrow evening. The plan is for the deeper look and rapid run through to be releasing tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. instead of our usual Saturday at 8:30 a.m. So everything's just a bit offset, and then we should be back on schedule later this week with the live stream again at 8 o'clock on Friday, and then our deeper look at episode 19 on Saturday morning. So that should get us back onto our previous schedule, or close enough to it. I know that obviously there's been a lot of disruptions across the course of the past month, but we're trying to get back on track, and I'm hoping that this will allow that I can finally get back on track with 95, which is coming along. I did try to do some work on it while I was sick, but it's hard to do things while you're sick. But it is coming together, and I'm hoping to have more news for you guys again soon. I know I keep saying that, and I hate that I have to keep saying that, and then I'm almost immediately hit with some new ridiculousness within a few days every time I say that. But I know that it's happening this month. I'm just not sure what day yet, because it is getting close, and the effects are getting to where they need to be. MJ is not monitoring well, MJ might be monitoring the chat. MJ's over in the other room, making sure that RJ is sleeping properly. What are some of my favorite things about Dino Fury? I like that they are playing around with a lot of setup and foreshadowing. I don't know where it's all going quite yet, because I haven't gotten to the end of the season, because I am taking it one episode at a time, so I don't watch the next episode until I've finished putting together the review video for the episode I'm on, so that means that I'm working through it slowly. But I definitely like they've gone in a more progressive direction with things like Izzy and her cousin Lily, and that they do seem to be introducing a number of different plot threads that are going to be paying off further, that appear like they're going to be paying off further down the line. I would like a little bit more immediate payoff for some more things, but I'm curious to see where the things that they're setting up are going. So I'm liking that. and I feel like there's some interesting integration of Power Rangers lore to an extent that we haven't quite seen before. So all these little pieces are keeping me very intrigued, but I really want to see how they pay off before I really can fully judge the season. Oh, nice. Steam game. Cool. So yes, so that's where I've been at. Um, also, I did recently do another reading for Worlds Elsewhere, the online theater company. So if you search for Worlds Elsewhere Theater Company on YouTube, you will see for their newest winter spooky event, where they're doing sort of creepy winter performances, winter themed performances. I did a reading of Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins to celebrate Hanukkah, which, since the sun is down, has now concluded where I am. But it's still hopefully an enjoyable listen. So, welcome, Nightwing Josh. You are just in time, because we're about to dive into the episode itself. So before we do, as always, our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Black lives matter. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Fascism. Whoop. Fascism is bad. How did I not flip that around? And number 3, say it with me, chat. Superheroes are fun. So, let's tune back in to our favorite superhero, Database Ranger, with episode 55 of Database Ranger's Power Reviews. Our review of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, episode 145, Rangers in Reverse.
Previously on
Yes,
Power Review.
the finale of the Winter Trilogy combined with the finale of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
So one day,
And it was very fun to just take this segment from the landlord's speech in episode 54 and just use it as a different version of a recap of where the show has gone. And it's one of the few times that I really got to play around with the whole previously on segment. And I've done it in a few cases. I played around with it, obviously, in this one, and with the, crickets, nothing happened in the very first episode, as well as when we were wrapping up year 1, 2.
And now,
And again, that
Power
boom
Review.
of the closing of the book.
Greetings, Ranger fan.
And this is just me all
Allow me.
database all broken. And this was me just really this is really where I got to fully establish the character of the landlord. His very calm malice, his smooth tones, his smooth motions, and playing it up as if it's the end of the series, as if we've had a reveal now of who Database really is and what everything has been. But obviously, this is only the 3rd episode of year 2, so there was no way it was going to be ending here. And this would have been a very much downer ending if this was where we actually ended it up. So he's just trying to think about which finales would be appropriate. I like that people enjoy the landlord's voice so much, because I did play around with it a bit before I settled on what I wanted him to sound like. And yes, this is the end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and this is where we first transition into Alien Rangers right after. But I just wanted this overall sense of just complete disdain in every dripping from every word. And I clearly have something of a deeper voice, although I do pitch it up a little bit for database, and I do pitch my voice down a little bit for the landlord, but I debated a bit how far I wanted to pitch it down, because I can do like a full-on, very deep, almost James Earl Jones style voice, and I decided that that was a little too over the top. So I just went for a little bit deeper, a little bit softer, a little bit slower. Because, as I said, Database has a slightly higher tone voice than I do. So it didn't make sense for his shadow counterpart to have a significantly deeper voice. It's just a lower tone. Because this is my natural voice, whereas my Database Ranger voice is a little bit more up here. It's a very slight, subtle difference, but it's primarily because the Phantom Ranger, as voiced by Ali Afshar, is a slightly higher tone than I am, so I wanted to have it be something that could potentially match at a reasonable level. Yeah, this is CNN. Remember who you are, Simba. Verizon Wireless. We're always working for you. And you get to hear my deeper voice, my more bombastic deep voice when I do the little announcer last time on Power Reviews bit. And it's always interesting doing reviews in a different character voice, and I don't just mean like the literal voice. I mean the character's way of describing things. Because one thing that I strive for whenever I'm writing these scripts where someone other than Database is reviewing is making sure that the phrasing and the tone is different. You know, obviously Dr. K has a far more analytical, technobabble kind of character voice when it comes to reviewing a Power Rangers episode, versus if we have the very gruff guy, or the very casual Mayo, or in this case the very disdainful landlord, or the very you know, kooky, you know, collaborative Morpotsners. Like, there's so many different ways that different characters would describe any particular episode they're watching. Whether they are really passionate about the show, are really intrigued by the show, are really casual about the show, are frustrated over watching the show, are just completely clueless but enjoying the show, or being really dismissive of and really disliking things. So there's so many different things that go into writing the reviews as the different characters. And Scott, to give you your request here. Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to Power Reviews. So yeah, there you go. There's Database Ranger as Ninja. I'm sorry, Athena.
No wonder he still didn't have a steady job by Samurai. Meanwhile, after shaking the place up a bit,
and it's a very and the landlord's still cracking jokes. They're just very deadpan compared to even the deadpan that we get with Guy or Dr. K. Welcome, Jenny. You missed me doing the voice of Ninjor just a moment ago.
Yet for some reason I doubt that's what it will be used for. Such a waste. Indeed. Inside the sphere lies the orb.
You know, he's got a little bit more sympathy for the villains, a little bit more admiration for the villains. Rooting for the villains, obviously.
These incompetent fools have no understanding of physics, do they? And apparently,
And
neither does Master Vile.
I will say, for
as he intends
upcoming
to use their
episodes,
power to reverse the course of
you will get a
time
better feel
and
for the
roll
landlord's
Power
understanding of
Rangers
physics.
back to harmless little
Um,
prepubescent children.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that about your friend, Jenny. Hope he's okay.
Yes, because sending down
I also find it
people
fascinating that Master Vile ended up and the Tangas ended up being used as adversaries in the Edge of Darkness comic, which obviously was, you know, well after this review.
Of course, the Rangers remain blissfully.
I would say that's the. I don't think that it's the same carnival. I'm assuming that it's not as either of those. Because this would have been 2 years later, and it was likely and from the looks of things, it looked like a local carnival that would have been set up and taken down. Yeah. Honestly, the whole idea of the landlord being the actual name of the villain was, as I said last week, completely unintentional at the time. I was just calling him the landlord in that moment, and then because I didn't give any other name for him, that just became the name that he became referenced as throughout the rest of the series, up until we got his actual name. But yeah, considering you know how like evictions and things have been across the course of the last 2 years of the lockdowns and the pandemic and everything, landlords as villains do feel increasingly apropos. I'm not meaning to villainize any individuals, but just the role is often a villainous role and is often used in villainous ways.
With red, white, and pink staying behind to tend to the orb. I take it that these so-called heroes are unfamiliar with the concept of divide and conquer, which means they are currently being outwitted by this creature. What indeed?
It's like, I'm surrounded by buffoons. And this character would know quite a bit about divide and conquer, now that we know who he is. Thank you, Devious. Good evening to you as well.
Power Rangers are earning bruises worthy of their colors in their defense of the carnival, and so choose to summon their metallic armor.
The metallic armor.
Of glitter that was introduced a few episodes
One thing that's really nice with so many of these reviews of past episodes is that I have gotten a chance to really look at like the full breadth of the series, from how it's from Mighty Morphin all the way through the end of Super Megaforce. Although obviously there have been a number of seasons since then, which is a shame that I haven't been able to cover those. Although I did try to reference them at least a little bit in episode 94. And there will be a few more references seated in here and there.
But I believe the proper term would be new vaccines. And he wisely.
And one thing I will note with the way that, with all of the little cuts to database, which are obviously very few and far between here, is that I hadn't fully written the episode, I believe, at the point where I filmed those scenes with database. I knew a few things that I wanted to include, and I shot them in advance because, as you may notice, my hair is very long in each of those shots and much shorter as the landlord, because those shots were done months in advance. I believe all those scenes of database being broken on the couch were shot in like November, and this episode was released in March, So there were they were filmed quite a few months in advance, which I mean now feels quaint considering I now film scenes years in advance. But it was, you know, a lot of heavy planning at this stage to make sure that I'd be able to pull off the appropriate effect, because I knew what the episodes were going to be like in advance. I just hadn't written them yet at that point.
Even that old fool Zordon can do nothing to help them.
Oh, and it looks like, again, they detected the copyrighted audio, because they always do. So, thank you for that, YouTube.
And so, to cement the completeness of their victory even further,
and this moment at the end of the episode was such a cliffhanger at the time. Like, I don't know how many of you, you know, were watching the series back then. I know I'm you know, of the old guard when it comes to the fan base. But I remember seeing this when I was, you know, 10 years old, and not knowing what was going to happen because they didn't have the next episode the following week. Wait, stream unavailable? What? Are you kidding me? Let me pause this. Let me. Oh no. Are you kidding me? I got blocked because of the audio?
Did you?
That's what it's saying. My stream has been temporarily blocked. Okay, well, what do I do about that? It says there's an error. Yeah. How do I fix this error though? What? What is happening? Okay, so
Did you on the show footage or while you were?
It's because of the audio from the. It's
Power Rangers audio?
It's because of the Power Rangers audio. But, really? Really? What? Are you kidding me? Well, what do I... Okay, temporarily blocked, but how do I unblock it? This isn't good. How do I unblock? This is not good.
Check your YouTube studio dashboard for strikes. It's the issue that is listed.
Let me try doing this. Does this do anything? That did nothing. Oh boy.
Supposedly, Content ID claims are only made after you complete your live video streams.
Yeah.
All live streams are scanned for matches to third-party content, including broadcast from another live broadcast. When the third-party content is identified, a placeholder image comes up in place of your live stream. You'll be warned to stop streaming the third-party content. If you comply with this warning and address the issue, your stream will continue. If the third-party content remains in your stream, your live stream will be temporarily interrupted or terminated. Your stream can also be terminated if you get a copyright or community guidelines strike.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I can access this claim and get my stream going again.
YouTube Studio dashboard.
It's up. Oh wait. Oh, am I back?
You're up.
Oh, I'm back. Okay, that was weird. Okay, I turned off the monetization. I guess that did it. I just guess I need to not monetize. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and they all just heard me reading that off too, because that's where it came up.
Yeah.
Hi guys!
There we go. Yep, yeah,
Bye,
MJ's in the background. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Apparently YouTube decided to block things because of the MMPR audio. So I think I just need to make sure to keep my monetization off for these live streams. Because otherwise it puts me at risk of things getting blocked. That was weird. I don't know how that's going to impact the playback. Sorry about that. Thank you for sticking with me. MJ was here in the background just to tell me what was going on. So I don't know what you guys, what you all last heard me say before I vanished. Um, but I was saying how when I was a kid I was watching this and I didn't know what was going to be happening with the cliffhanger, and when it didn't have pick right back up the following week, I thought that maybe this actually was the end of the show at the time. Okay, so I'll just pick this back up from where he finished the review portion and is moving on to the analysis. And she starts to cry. There we go. And that's the end of our episode. And of course, he also, just like every other character, has the variation of the, and that's the end of the episode. What did I think of it? Hand motion. Okay, so it looks like I got it back more or less to where it was. So yeah, I was just saying how I was just saying during the time that it was cut out about how I was I'm part of the old guard when it comes to the Power Rangers fan base, so I don't know how many of you were watching it live at the time when this happened, but the big gap of months following this episode genuinely made me think that this might have been the actual end of the series, the end of the franchise. And I'm glad that I was proven wrong. Yeah. And it is fascinating how it's such a not benign, banal plot. It's a very normal villain plot that just happened to actually succeed. And that's very true. Like, ugh. I get chills from listening to his just full takedown of that, because honestly, we've experienced some of that sort of thing in recent years. I've obviously gone into in other non-Power Rangers videos about the dangers of the rise of fascism, etc., and how. And there we go. But that wasn't the end. There's always still a chance, there's always still hope. Even after evil has won, even if evil won so unexpectedly and seemingly completely. And yeah, this little exchange, I believe I had actually written before I wrote the rest of the review. So that I could... And now you're starting to see some interesting different things. Database's hair has just gotten shorter. There we go. Yeah, so I had written part of it, but I hadn't written... So basically everything when you start to see Database's hair get shorter again is the stuff
but so good.
Later. And look, you can see now I've become clean shaven. I now have my jacket back. Like, each time you cut back to Database is a little bit cleaner.
They never give up. What I'm going to go outside.
And I like how going outside is such a major theme here.
Just sit back down. There's nothing for you out there.
And that was fun getting the timing right on that.
Sit back down. So much easier. Just let me take over. I can't.
And that was an interesting take to do also, where I had to punch myself in the face.
There's nothing for you out there.
The first look at the void.
Now sit
Feel bad about my audio here. I am in control here. No one, you do not leave without my consent. Now, the way that I do the eyes here, this little eye battle that was very DBZ style, was a challenging effect to pull off, and I did.
It's morphin' time.
Nice. I felt that's such a good morphin time. I felt very good about that take. But yeah, figuring out how to do the black glowing eyes, I was still getting the hang of that. Which I later really refined with the more Potsners. And his eyes just kind of flare a little bit. And ending very much on that sort of cliffhanger note of, you know, what's just happened, where's it all going? And it's you know, I think a good nice way to end that winter trilogy. And yeah, when it comes to I did want to talk a little bit about the eye effects, just because I chose to do the eye effects a little bit differently in year 2 than I had in year 1. In year 1, I was using After Effects, and I was tracing all around my eyes, and it was just very time-consuming. And then, in the year 1 finale, when I morphed into the Phantom for the first time, I did just a little flare of the eyes with lens flare, and I decided I liked that effect better. So I ended up deciding to use that for the eye effects moving forward. So every time you see the eye effects after this point, I'm using the lens flare effect. And doing that whole war of the eyes was interesting because it involved a fair number of layers, because I had to have, like, the flaring from my eyes, but then the flaring from the landlord's eyes had to be black instead of white, to just play with that light and shadow. So what I did was I inverted the colors on the landlord, then put in the white lens flares, then inverted the colors for the whole thing, and then that was one layer, and then I had database as the other layer, and then I had like an extra layer of lens flare on each one to kind of wash out the rest of the room, and I had to do this little garbage matting between the two, and it was moving back and forth, and it was just making use of little effects that I had picked up along the way. You know, I over the course of year 1, I kept learning different effects that I could eventually use in year 2. Like, my compositing was initially like, oh, it's going to be a crop down the middle. No, I need to use garbage matting to cut around. Oh, I'll use the roughen edges to smooth that around. Oh, now I'll use the lens flares for the eyes. You know, and I can use the lens flare to brighten it up, but then I'll do a garbage mat around that, so that way I can control how far the effect is actually going and expand and contract it, which is what I did with the at the end of episode 53, where he does the eyes to blast away the creepy clones. So it was very much interesting exploring each of these new effects and then integrating them. And I'm doing that sort of thing again for 95, and I'm hoping that it pays off and that you guys enjoy the effect sequences that you'll be seeing. So I just want to talk a little bit about how I pulled off some of that, because it was a challenge. You know, I am acting opposite myself in all of these scenes in the Winter Trilogy, with the exception of that one last shot with Mayo. But I really want to try and properly create that shifting back and forth between the very broken database and the more self-actualized database ranger that he's become across the course of the first half of the series. So, Dan, with regards to 95, I have been making progress. I'd really like to be able to release it this weekend, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, because I'm having to kind of pull double duty to catch up on, obviously, the live stream tonight, and then the deeper look and rapid run through tomorrow, neither of which were able to be released before the weekend. So I'm going to try and see what I'm going to able to do, but tomorrow I'm going to be focusing on getting the rapid run through and deeper looks out by 8:30 tomorrow evening, which means that I really am going to have, like, Wednesday and Thursday are going to be, like, the only 2 days that I have to work on 95 before I then need to work on the next live stream Friday night and then releasing the deeper look and rapid run through for Saturday. And then I'll have, the weekend, and hopefully, maybe, possibly, by the end of the weekend, I'll be near the end of it. But it's really hard to say right now. Between losing my computer for a week, losing use of my eyes for a week, then I was sick for a few days this past week. I had Thanksgiving. I went to visit my family for Hanukkah. I had all my grades. I had just basically everything just has been piling up, and I wish I had better answers. I really, really do. I hate letting you guys down. I really hate that I had that release date and then I wasn't able to hit it for circumstances that were outside of my control. So I'm aiming to try and make some good progress to try and see if maybe this coming weekend we could see a release. But we're going to have to wait to see how we're doing on Friday, and I should be able to tell you more then. Yeah, very, very late birthday gift. RJ is doing well. They're not quite walking yet, but they're getting close. They're doing very well. And they loved their first Hanukkah. RJ loved the lighting of the candles, loved the songs. Just big grin on their face, like bouncing up and down, like, hey. It was made me proud, Papa. So yeah, and going back to some of the other comments I saw. Thank you, Athena, for the comment on the CGI helmet. I feel like it doesn't hold up as well as it probably did then in the moment when you weren't looking for it, but I look at it now and I'm just like, oh, that's very obviously CG now that I look back on it. But it played for a lot of people, and I think part of it is because it's, only the helmet is CG and the rest is still practical, and so it kind of, you kind of think of the whole thing as being practical, which is the way that sort of stuff goes. Oh, any words from RJ? Not actual words. A lot of syllables. Like, we'll get a lot of da 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 da's and mama mama ma's, but not literal. But I don't think they're literally mama and dada. We're getting close there. Yeah, they're well, actually, technically this will be their second Christmas, because RJ was born just a little bit before Christmas last year. But their first birthday is coming up. And then let's see, with response to some other comments, with regards to the staying inside stereotype, yes, that is a nerd / fanboy stereotype, but it also plays very well into the themes of the character of Dr. K. With she originally just wanted to go outside, and now within the context of Power Reviews, she spends a huge chunk of the series not being able to leave the apartment without getting untethered from that dimension. And I also like that it was that when we first meet K Alpha, her first line is about may I go inside now instead of going outside. So just being that very dark reflection of K, of instead of somebody who's been trapped inside this whole time and wants to get out, it's someone who's been trapped outside of the universe and wants to go in. And I think that was that's sort of a nice little dichotomy between those characters. And obviously, you'll be seeing more of K Alpha as year 3 continues. I hope that you've all been enjoying those elements. I know that she's a very late stage character in many regards, but I really appreciate the what Marissa has been able to what MJ has been able to bring as the 3 different versions of K, the Dr. K, Mayo, and K Alpha. That, and again, just having that dark reflection of Database, having their own dark reflection of Dr. K, felt very apropos for the series, which is a lot about self-reflection and identity. And one of the ways that you sort of define yourself is through your shadow archetype, through the things, not only the things you are, but then also the things that you are not. That, ties into that Jungian psychology that Database kind of dived into in the very first episode when talking about the Nilox. The whole idea of the shadow archetype isn't necessarily the evil version of you. It's just the things that define you by virtue of what you're not. It's the inverse of you, which isn't necessarily evil, just different. Although, obviously, we've learned that the landlord is not quite what he presents himself as, and is actually very, very dangerous. And I tried to sort of tease in little things here and there. Any thoughts of a Database cinematic universe? Oh, I considered for years the idea of continuing adventures, of doing continuing spin-off series after the end of Power Reviews. I know plenty of people have joked. I know that at least a few people have joked about having a more Potsner's cooking show, which would have been very funny to try to do, but Justin and Sarah are just not having the availability for that sort of thing. It would be too much to try and pull off. And technically speaking, Grid Defense does reference events from Power Reviews episode 56. So there is that little bit of connection. So I would love to do a lot. There are so many things I'd love to do with the character, with many of the characters in the show, that I just sadly don't feel like I could really commit to. I have committed myself to finishing this series, for better or worse. I have been very determined to find my way to the end of this, and I am getting so close. I mean, it's less than a year left to go to hit that goal, and it's very tight. If once I get 95 out this month, that will get me past sort of a bottleneck, and then I will have I hope to then have 96 out within the next 2 months, 97 out within 2 months after that, and then 98 and 99 will be the big summer episodes, with 100 being October of next year. On the plus side, I have less filming coordination I need to work on for next summer, but there's still going to be a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I'm hoping to become more politically engaged again next year, like I was last year. Since we do have the midterm elections coming up next year, I definitely want to try and do something for that. Because as we learned through the events of 2016, and through what we saw just now in Rangers in Reverse, all it takes is for evil to triumph just the once on a seemingly and routine event, and everything that people have been working towards can come crumbling down in so many ways, and you need to rebuild everything that you'd worked for. And we are at a point in our society where we can't keep doing that. The fact that we were able to electorally defeat a fascist leader is something to be very proud of, but just the fact that that person was able to succeed in the 2016 election that was everyone took for granted was going to go the other way, because it wouldn't have, if nobody was really expecting it to go the way it did. But as we see with the Rangers here, sometimes that overconfidence, that routine of, oh yeah, no, there's no way that would happen. It's just gonna be another, another crushing defeat for the bad guys. And sometimes it doesn't go that way, and that's why you always need to keep working. And that's one of the big lessons you can kind of take from this episode in particular. I feel like, and this might be, again, my autistic brain interpreting the world through the lens of my special interests, but I feel like Power Rangers for me has been a very effective tool for drawing parallels to the real world and figuring out ways to understand it and to deal with it and to succeed within it. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry to sort of bring a downer into that, but I mean, if there's an episode to talk about some downer defeats, I think episode 55 is a good one to bring that sort of stuff up on. And yeah, the Winter Trilogy was a very interesting and I will admit kind of a fun experiment, sort of really getting bare bones in certain regards where it was just me filming, while still ramping things up in terms of internal pathos and the mysteries of the story, and really just sort of pushing the show into its second half, which is obviously drawn on far, far, far longer than I ever anticipated. But you can see how this was the beginning of part 2 in many regards. You can kind of think of, if you were to think of like year 0 and year 1 as the first half of the series, year 2 and year 3 are the second half, and it made sense to introduce the villain of the series at this stage. So I've probably rambled on for long enough for tonight. I've got work in the morning, and I've got a pair of videos to release tomorrow. Because I am not kind to myself, unfortunately. As you saw in this episode, I punched myself in the face. So let's wrap things up with our remaining 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say with me, chat. Robots are cool. Equally, hopefully, non-controversial in the world moving forward. So thank you all again for joining me. Please tune in tomorrow night at 8:30 for the release of the next deeper look and rapid run-through for Power Rangers Dino Fury episode 18, Crossed Wires, which I will confess I really enjoyed, and for certain specific reasons I'll get to in the videos. Definitely make sure to check that out. And until next time, Ranger fans, farewell, and let the power protect you.